Hi there, welcome to the Interview with the Champions, and today, as you can see, I'm with Geoffrey Gelardi, the General Manager for 25 years at the Lanesborough Hotel. Now, Geoffrey, I've known for many years, and he gave me an amazing piece of advice when I first started in the hotel business, which I'll share with you in a minute. But Geoffrey, before we sort of get into the interview, do you want to just give a brief sort of intro of you, because you've been here for some time?
Yes, I've been here for 25 years. I actually left the United States in 1990 to come here to open this hotel. Prior to that, I was opening hotels mainly in the US.
Right.
I spent 17 years there and did most of my training there, and opened the Remington in Houston. When Caroline Hunt bought the Bel Air in Los Angeles, I ran that for 5 years, and then I was a partner in a hotel called the Sorrento in Seattle.
All right.
And then I was sitting on the board of directors of Preferred Hotels at the time with an old friend of mine by the name of Atef Mankarius, who happened to be the president of Rosewood Hotels at the time, and he had recently acquired the management contract for this hotel in London, which didn't have a name at the time, and
wasn't built.
It was St George's Hospital being converted.
Yeah.
It was actually originally going to be a Peninsula hotel,
right.
But then there was some change in ownership, and so it went back out to bid, and Rosewood won the management. And so he knew I was English, and so he came to me and he said, Jeff, I'm looking for this chap to run this hotel in London that we've just acquired, and it's the most amazing hotel, and it's got and I've told the owners that it's going to be the best hotel in the world, and yeah, I know. And he went on. He said, "Well, but he has to be English, and he has to understand the U.S. Service levels. He has to understand how Rosewood works. He has to understand this." And then after about him going on about for half an hour, I finally just stopped and I said, "Atef, there's only one guy who has all those credentials, and you can't afford him." And of course he could.
Yeah, well, thank God. Because it's been a hell of a journey here, though. Because it was. Whether or not we could call it the first 7-star hotel in London. I know that.
We wouldn't do that. If you don't mind me telling stories, I can tell you another story how all that came about.
Yeah.
This is another true story that it was me that accidentally started all that baloney, if I may call it that, because I was being interviewed by the Sunday Times business section about 23 years ago. And there was a young gentleman who was interviewing me who had never interviewed anyone in the hotel business before. Right. What he knew about the hotel business was dangerous, and he was about 23 years old or something. Yeah. And so he was asking me, and he asked me, is the Lanesborough a 5-star hotel? And at that time, London didn't really have a great rating system. All the hotels were 5-star. Everything from the Hilton, the Sheraton,
the Dorchester, the Grosvenor.
Well, yeah, but they're okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I tried to think of something that would separate us from the others. So I said to him, you could possibly say that the Lanesborough is London's first 6-star hotel. And I laughed, and I said, so because I think we are, and we were at that time, I think a little step above most of the other hotels in London. And the next day, front page of the business section, there was a headline, London's first 6-star hotel. And then it just went on from there. And then, of course, the Burj Al Arab went to 7 stars. And I've even heard people saying 8 stars nowadays. So, and it's all a lot of...
so you started the movement with the multiple stars?
I think I did. I hadn't seen it before, and that was an original thought. So I may have started all this nonsense, and I really do think it's nonsense. I think nowadays, the best measuring of stars and all that, obviously, is Forbes. They seem to be the most difficult to acquire.
Right.
And we've been lucky enough to get 5 stars from them.
Good.
And to get 5 stars from them is quite difficult.
So, being a general manager and having such a wide experience, but also growing a business. I mean, I remember once when I started my hotel, I cheekily asked you, so what's your occupancy? And you just looked at me and went, come on, if it's under 98%, I'm really upset, or something like that.
No, I wouldn't be quite that. No, we were doing, during the 90s, 1990s, we did run mostly over 90%.
Yeah. And which is when I started Whitley Park, which is fine. But if you look at today, and I look at the hotels I go and speak to, and if you like, my audience is not the 5-star hotels like this. It's more family-run businesses where people are striving for excellence. They're trying to be as great as they can be within their market. They're pushed from the budget hotels at the bottom, so they've got that competition. And budget hotels today, if you just want a bed, they're pretty functional. And they're pushed from the luxury market above, sort of the 4-star plus hotels, country hotels. And the ones in the middle are the family hotels, which are really trying to, let me have 2 or 3 hotels. Group I was working with last year, exactly that situation. And running those hotels, or being a general manager in those hotels, I think is really challenging. Your perspective, because you have a bigger property, you've got more systems and processes and layers of people. What do you see the biggest challenge of being a general manager and actually delivering your vision for the Lanesborough, but making sure that the waiting staff, the bar staff, the housekeeping staff are delivering that same vision? What are the biggest challenges you face in making that happen?
It's choosing the right people. I mean, it doesn't matter at what level you are in the hotel business, and it is always that. I mean, you can spend as much money as you want and have the most beautiful hotel in the world, but unless you put the right people into the right place, you're not going to be that successful. And that's what it boils down to.
And so is that just at recruitment? Is that where it starts?
Well, that's where it starts, but no, it's not, absolutely not. In fact, it goes way beyond there. It goes through day-to-day training, it goes to giving people opportunities, it goes to giving people the ability to be themselves, because a lot of people in this business say, how many times you hear it? I love to meet people. But then when you watch them in public, they don't really like to meet people. No. And it takes a special personality to actually be yourself to a stranger and to put out the right vibes, so to speak, and even more importantly, to take in the right vibes. What does this man want or lady want from me? Do they want to stand and chat? Do they want to go straight to their room? Do they want to know what's going on in London? Or do they just want to get to their rooms, close the door, and get ready for their meeting? So you have to be able to read those things when you're a front of house or anybody working in the front of a hotel.
When I started in consulting years ago, I was working for a chap called Michael McMaster, and he taught me how to listen. And I'd be in a training room with him, and my job was to listen to the people in the room, and at the break to tell him what they were thinking, so that he would make sure that he could pick up the vibe of what's going on. Do you find it easy to teach people that skill, or do you think it's a very natural skill to have?
I think you can teach it to an extent, but some people it just comes naturally. I don't know if you remember my front of house manager here, Michael Naylor Leyland. He came from an aristocratic family. He was married to Princess Saskia, who's Prince Philip's, and very aristocratic. Went to Eton, all this kind of thing. You'd think he'd be a bit of a pompous ass, but he was one of the most delightful guys. I never knew any of that about him, actually. I didn't know anything about him like that. And he was one of those people who was absolutely, as soon as guests walk in and met him, he was quite an imposing 6 foot plus gentleman and very good looking, but he had this natural poise about him. And he was, everybody liked Michael right away.
Yeah.
I wish I had that talent. I couldn't do what they do. But that's the kind of talent that you need in the front of house of a hotel. Someone who is going to make you feel at home, make you feel that you come back to a place, or if you have come back to a place that recognises you. I had to speak. This is quite a few years ago now. I had to speak at Cornell University, and they gave me to speak on was guest recognition.
Right.
Right. I haven't been invited back, and one of the things that I tried to get across to them, because they were. They had their books there, and it was very much an academic situation, and so I thought, well, I'll sort of put a little surprise in, and I took one of the books there, and I said, you can put all these in the rubbish bin. Of course, most of them went like this. I said, what's a rubbish bin? They were Americans.
Trash.
Yes. And I said, in my world, there is really only one way if you really want to achieve great guest recognition. I said, and it's it's one of the most important things in a hotel, certainly of this nature, and I think a hotel's of almost any nature where you have repeat people coming back.
Well, any service business actually that has repeat people.
Absolutely, and so I went around the room, and these young people came up with some absolutely brilliant stuff. They talked about how you should handle your guest history, how when they arrive at the door you can get information and pass it along. How you should get information at reservations, how you can have phones that have the name on it so that you can call the guest by his name all the time when you don't even know them. And it was all good stuff, but I said no one has actually got what I'm looking for here, the real way of connecting with a guest, and what do you need to have to do that. And it is quite simply, in my opinion, once again, I just give you an opinion, and it's to have the same employees in the same place year after year, because that's proper recognition. It's not recognition of, some people can actually hurt you because, if you do have a detailed guest history like we do, some employees will like to show the guest how much he knows about it.
Which isn't clever.
It's not clever.
No. I did get confused one day because I walked in here and I got called Lord Brown. But I did realise actually afterwards that the guy was joking. But
that was Dominic. I'll tell you who it was.
I was thinking, Christ, they've got me mistaken for somebody else.
Yes.
But you said something then, training daily. And I think this is something which the smaller properties don't grasp the power and the importance of. Because it's fine to recruit someone, you've got the person with the right attitude and right skills, but it's
not necessarily the right skills if you're hiring for attitude.
Yeah, but starting skills. They know how to they know how to dress.
Right.
It might be the skill they need, but they know they've got something. But like all of us, I mean, I'm a coach, but I have a business coach actually who I talk to once a month, who just keeps me on to, so what have you been up to? Just how's it going? Have you focused on the right things?
Right.
And the Lorenzo Giannuzzi, when I spoke to him, he was talking about it, and he calls it management by walking. So that you're continually on the floor with your team, whichever level of management or leadership you're in. And when you see them doing something well, you say, hey, Geoffrey, that was brilliant. The guest was really appreciated that, well done. But also said, maybe you could just this or maybe that. But you always do it quietly, out of sight of the guest, always with great respect. But your staff then know that you're interested in how they're performing. They're not just left to hang.
Right.
And I think quite a lot of small businesses sort of leave their staff to hang. They give them enough training, like training done day one, tick, done that, now get on with the job. And they don't, or they expect it just to work.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen.
No, I mean, if you take the most simple of rules that somebody has to hear something a minimum of 3 times before it sinks in, you start with that premise.
Yeah.
So if you tell them at once, the likelihood of them understanding it is probably about 30%, and the likelihood of them actually doing it is probably about 20%.
And if you do set people expectations or challenges, you challenge the staff to behave in a particular way, and then you don't follow up, the message you send is that, well, obviously what you told me to do isn't important.
Right.
Because why would I bother? And where you get a professional organisation like this, where you have those lieutenants I was talking about, the people that understand what you want to happen for the guest, and the next level down understands it, and the next level down understands it.
It's called understanding the culture.
And this is what I think you have developed here so brilliantly. I think in the top hotels it's something that you expect, but when you go down to smaller properties where they don't have the systems and the processes and they've run on passion, it seems to run out, which is a bit of. Have you, in your experience of sort of engaging a middle junior manager in that system to really perform well, you must have had experiences where you've just been delighted by the results, somebody just really being able to transmit the message down fluidly to the next level, and you just see it working well. Have you got any really good experience of that?
Well, yes. I mean, I one of my favourite, and he may not like this, but was Jeremy Goring.
Right.
Jeremy came to work here as a food and beverage director.
Yeah.
And his father at the time used to come and talk to me and say, Geoffrey, you're trying to straighten him out, will you? But don't fire him, okay? Let me know if he's doing something wrong, and I'll straighten him out. But Jeremy was just typical of that. He was a young guy. I got him out of the Four Seasons where he was working as a trainee, and he was totally engaging. His staff loved him, and he operated by example. He would be in the restaurant, if necessary. I mean, clearing tables and all this kind of stuff, and always supporting his staff and leading from the front, so to speak. And I think that's the most important thing about middle management. Not that and he was quite a senior manager, but it was the best example that popped into my head.
Yeah.
But many of we've had, we've trained half of London in this hotel, so we've got many examples. The gentleman who is running 45 Park Lane right now started here as night manager,
right,
and then he went on to reservations manager, front office manager, and then overall manager, and he was an outstanding. He was passionate about everything, and was very detailed oriented. He was very different from a Michael Naylor Leyland. They were a great team together, to be quite honest, because one was a sort of technical person who understood how the whole thing works, and they used each other, so to speak, and that's what you really want to get. So you got two people there with different skills who are learning from one another all the time. Yeah. Even though one was a bit more senior than the other. So yes, there's many examples that we've seen, or I've seen people grow, that we've brought people in at a middle to higher management, and we've seen them blossom throughout the industry. I mean, I can't go anywhere in London without...
Maybe somebody you know.
Yeah, that's right.
But so you were closed for 18 months, the refurbishment, which was a long time. You've come back and you're probably just as busy as you were before you closed. So you haven't lost any business, which is an amazing achievement.
Well, we're trying to create new business.
No, but also, you've got a lot of new staff. How many new staff did you take on in the end?
When we opened, we had... close to 30% of old staff.
30% old staff, so it was a 70% replacement, right? And how's that gone? Because it's 18. So it's no, it's not. Yeah. It's how many months now since you've been reopened?
Well, it's a year.
A year. So how's that gone? How's it?
It's a struggle, to be honest. Yeah. Because after running this place for as long as we have, as I have, rather, for 25 years, I'm not used to having so many new people. and I had sort of forgotten what it's like to have to create the culture all over again, so to speak. And most of my senior management too have moved on.
Right.
So we do have a number of employees that have been here 20 years and more, and I look to them to instill the culture to some extent. But it comes with time.
Yeah.
And we are still in that process. We don't have the stability or the recognition that we had when we closed.
Right.
We are probably technically better.
Right.
At least I hope we are.
Yeah.
But the actual guest recognition, because of all the new staff, is not what it used to be. No. But we're getting there.
Yeah. But also, I think you said you've probably got new business. You've
Absolutely.
relaunched into that, so you've always had new customers coming here.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to.
When we closed, we had a return guest ratio of 62%.
Right.
So I haven't actually looked at it recently, but I'm sure it's still in the same sort of range.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing from a operational standpoint, saying that when people come to stay here, they do return. Mm-hmm. But it's also a tool I use against my salespeople, saying, "So the hotel's doing very well, but where are you bringing in all my new people?"
So the message you gave me when I started Whitley Park, and very generously, you were very generous in your teaching. I could almost call you a mentor at the time. Well, I probably didn't know that word, but the message you gave me is, Adrian, never recruit somebody to do a job. Recruit them for the contribution they can make to the business. Right. And I really held that to heart, and it stayed with me the whole time. And I've got a myriad of stories about the contribution that my staff made at Whitley Park. Mm-hmm. Was phenomenal. You've obviously just massively recruited new people. The contribution that they're bringing, because they're new, it's time's moved on. Is it different? Are you finding that your staff contribute differently today?
Well, I think we operate differently.
Right.
Having said that, I'm a fourth generation hotelier. Mm-hmm. My grandfather was actually general manager of the Savoy, general manager of Claridge's, and he opened the Waldorf Astoria in 1931. Mm-hmm. And he used to write memoirs.
Right.
He was a prolific writer, and I have those memoirs, most of them. And if you read them, the theory behind the hospitality business hasn't changed in 100 years.
No.
And so to say that we've changed, how we do it has changed. What we use, the technology that we use, and all that has all changed. And therefore, some of the nuances of what we try and teach our people has changed. Mm-hmm. I mean, in those days, you never tried to teach people what we try and teach them today. No. What I was talking about in the beginning. Yeah. How do you teach someone to recognize somebody else's body language?
Right.
If you'd said that to somebody in the 1920s, they would have looked at you in a very strange way.
Yeah.
So,
but that in itself, although it's not a touchable technology, it is a technology in the sense that that it's use of language, it's use of lots of other skills that we know.
It's a technique.
And when I was at Whitley Park, and there was a minor problem we had at one point, and I reached out to a chap called Dermot Fitzpatrick. I don't know if you know Dermot Fitzpatrick. He was at the Michael Lucas and St James's Club. Introduced me to him, and he was down at Whitley Park, and we're going through the whole thing. And he said, Adrian, you've got it right, because you've got the high tech. It looks great. All the furnishings are great. All the systems are great. The processes are great, fine. But you've also got the high touch. And I think that's the bit that hasn't changed in the hotel industry. Mm-hmm. To be good, you have to have that high touch. Right. You've got to read your guest. You've got to understand your guest. You've got to know when to stand back, when to come forward, and catch it before it falls. It's that lovely, bit of service is deliver it before they know they want it. Right. The ultimate. So you've got new people. Things go wrong. We all know that. Stuff happens. Yes. I mean, let's not name anybody, but if you thought about an incident where it's gone wrong, what was missing that led to it going wrong?
Oh, there's a myriad of things. Normally, it's just someone who's not followed procedures, and which is not a bad thing. We sort of are quite contradictory here in that we look at all our rules as guidelines, and we encourage people to break the boundaries, so to speak, and to be able to do things.
So rules, but your rules aren't so much.
We don't tell people what to say, when to say it, how to say it. Although we do give them what you can say.
Yeah.
We would like them to say it in their own way, and when they're taking a tour of the hotel, they shouldn't feel obliged to use certain language that they should speak the way they would like to speak. Hopefully it's better
polite,
that way.
Yeah. But also they bring their personality to it.
Absolutely, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, and I liken actually any business, but especially the hospitality business or service businesses, like a game of tennis. So if I drew a tennis court, you go, yeah, that's a tennis court. You can understand it, and immediately you understand some of the rules. But then there's the fine rules, there's the etiquette rules, and then there's the dress code and all the other bits and pieces that go into it. So there's all the technical rules, but then there's this lovely piece of etiquette rules about the way you conduct yourself on the tennis court, and the Wimbledon
Try not
book.
to smash your racket.
Yeah, exactly. And the Wimbledon book is probably this long on it. But if you look at those rules and actually understand, then you get Ivan Lendl, you get Boris Becker, you get Federer, you get Murray, you get all these people, and they're playing tennis, but every single one of them is different. They know they're going great service, but every single member of staff has their own personality, and you never want to squash that. No. You want to encourage it, but it's the training them to know when to not. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's the difficulty. It is finding. That's why I say finding the right people. If people understand other people, they know what the boundaries are. You don't have to tell them what the boundaries are, and that's really what it's what the difference is. I think from what I would say a large structured hotel training, where they will tell you, when someone checks in, this is what you say, this is what you do, this is how you do it when you go to the room. This is how you take a credit card, this is how you do that. And while all that stuff has to be done, many of our staff will do it in different ways and say it in different ways.
When I interviewed Simon Lewis in the first of these interviews, he was talking about, the property was a branded property by Ritz-Carlton, and they debranded the hotel. And in the Ritz-Carlton manual, almost, or the big branded hotel manuals, it's like the restaurant isn't working, therefore refurbish. It wasn't the restaurant isn't working, so look at the staff and work with the staff and encourage the staff to do something different. And I think you're not a cookie cutter hotel. No, you are very unique.
And try to be.
Well, no, but you are. You walk through the door and it feels different. I mean, and luckily I've been able to go to some of the most wonderful hotels in the world. And even Badger's Palace, when you were running Badger's Palace, very different property.
Yes.
No, but it's you come to a property and you immediately walk in the door. There's a feeling to it. There's that this feels good. Something about it, and that you can't predict. But if you create the guidelines well enough and say, this is how I want the guest to feel at these different moments. Then people go, oh, okay, so they want to feel relaxed. Okay, so I'm going to do something that's going to relax them. And as long as you've given them the boundaries of what's decent and they don't go overboard.
Yeah. No, they don't. They're very sensible, really. And it is that kind of feel. But as I go back to our original conversation of, it's all to do with the personalities that you have there. And you'll have a mix of personalities. You always need to have a mix of personalities. You have too many nice laid-back guys, and your things will go downhill. And if you have too many bureaucrats, but you need a nice mixture of both types, certainly in the front of house.
One thing I tend to spend a lot of time with clients with is actually trying to get them to understand what a relationship is. Because people have lots of different views of relationship. And I describe a relationship as, if I have a relationship with you, I have a specific purpose for my relationship with you. So as a manager, I may have a specific purpose with that member of staff to make sure that I elicit all of their skills, talents and abilities to do the job properly. Mm-hmm. But it needs that member of staff to have a corresponding relationship with me, which is like, I'm giving you permission to be my boss, to work with me, and then it works, because then I can say to you, hey, Geoffrey, that wasn't great, or Geoffrey, well done. And there's a language, there's a dynamic that comes in. If you are going to look at your managers that are right down to shift managers probably, what are the elements that they need to have in their toolkit of dealing with people that make them really good middle managers and junior managers, right down to your shift managers and leaders? What are the things that those people need to have? What do they need to be as people?
Well, I mean, once again, I believe in getting the basics correct, and the rest will fall in line. Mm-hmm. So if they are polite, helps if they're nice looking, mm-hmm. helps if they can read people well, mm-hmm. which you've talked about, I think, in depth. I mean, those are some of the basics. And then, of course, experience always helps. Mm-hmm. But experience can be good and bad, mm-hmm. because people who sometimes you hire with a lot of experience will tend to not understand the culture for quite a long time because they're used to doing it a different way. Yeah. Nothing wrong with it, it's just different.
They have to unlearn what they've learned.
That's right, else, and it's sometimes quite difficult to do that. But on the other hand, there's no one who you can't learn from. Mm-hmm. And that's also an important managerial skill, is to pull out of people what they can and want to do. Mm-hmm. It's difficult because quite often you're not going to take all the advice, mm-hmm. But I think you have to celebrate the ones that come up with good ideas and mm-hmm. implement them and give them the credit for it. Yeah, we've done so much in this hotel. I believe that are sort of almost first-timers, shall we say, mm-hmm. And I'm not sure whether I actually came up with any of these ideas. I think mostly it was somebody else who said, hotel business, in the hotel business you should do this. And I go, hell yeah, we maybe we should. Let's try it, shall we?
Well, everybody from you, and it was totally down to your influence. Again, mm-hmm. back to the contribution thing. At Whitley, I instigated customer days because we're an exclusive use hotel, mm-hmm. exclusive use hotel. Sorry, we had days where we had no clients on site. There was no drop-in business at all. It was just you either booked in or you weren't. And on those days where we had nobody, we'd have customer days. And we'd do them about once every 2 months. Mm-hmm. And it was an invitation. Nobody had to come. If they came, they got paid for the day, but nobody had to come. And out of the 47 staff, we'd normally have about 35. Mm-hmm. I mean, the ladies' toilets used to get really busy. Because everyone would go, we'd take the journey of the customer through the hotel. Mm-hmm. And my general manager, Bridget, and I would just write down all the ideas people came up with. Mm-hmm. And then we'd sit in the conference and say, okay, which one's going to make the biggest impact with everybody? And say, well, I think if we did that, do you agree? And then we go, yeah, let's do that. And say, okay, so you're in charge. Who do you need to help you? Oh, I need that person, okay. When do you need to do it? And we'd always implement one mm-hmm. by the next customer, which mm-hmm. could be the next day. So people moved quickly, mm-hmm. but it was their idea. Yep. And I don't think we ever rejected one, mm-hmm. That we tried. They all worked. Sometimes it got tweaked a little bit because it didn't quite work as planned, right. But it was their idea. And so, like you, I was sitting there going, well, that wasn't my idea, but it's working really good. And I think as a manager, we have to be able to create an environment that encourages that the whole time.
Absolutely.
So there's a question that comes up a lot, or a question complaint, don't know, right word, wrong word, that young people don't necessarily have the right work ethic or are as interested as they used to be. Do you find that the management style has had to change with younger people? Have you had to sort of adapt how you engage them and how you motivate them?
Yes. In a word, they are far less patient than they mm-hmm. used to be. They want training. Mm-hmm. They want growth. And they want financial growth as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about graduates and all that. Not that they didn't want all that, but I think certainly in our day and for a decade after that, I think people were much more willing to stay in a position longer before they went to the next level. I think nowadays people just want growth very quickly, and you have to give them that. I mean, same thing. Certainly in the food and beverage section, the reason we find it so difficult to hold on to waiters, kitchen staff, and all that is because they're in a hurry to get somewhere. And you've got to give them a platform to do that. It's not easy at all. I don't claim to have the answer. Before now, I'm talking about a few decades ago, they were certainly, they would look at their position more as a platform to jump off than a. I think nowadays they will go somewhere at the same level just to get a different experience at the same level and move around a lot more than they used to.
Are the what I call let's distinguish
millenniums,
the really delegated ones of the millennium era. But I seem to think that the really dedicated ones have still got some patience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
but it's the impatient ones that, maybe they're not the right people for the industry in the long term, or they're not.
No, it's not that. I think they become, as they move into it, into their management, I think they'll slow down. But I mean, I was interviewing a young lady just the other day, and I looked through her resume, and she had not stayed any place. She'd been in the business for about 8 years. 14 months was the longest that she had been. Yeah. And and I went through all of that, and she had a reason for every one of her moves. Whether it be personal or whether it be growth or whatever. And so it's difficult to judge a person on that thing because I go back to my philosophy of the importance of longevity, and recognition, in every single area. I mean, sales, it's exactly the same thing. It's all about relationships. And if you're a private dining executive or something, the guest wants to know that person that they're talking to, not the guest, the person organising. Because they can organise it so much more quickly.
So you want the longevity, the young want movement or growth, or both. It's not an easy one to solve.
No, it's a dilemma.
But I think what I'm seeing more and more is, and I don't know whether this is the cycle we're going to go through, but I'm seeing that actually when the young person gets challenged in the right way for them, so that they go, oh, hang on, I want to get better at that, I want to learn, I want to grow. It slows them down a bit. It's when they're impatient, they want to learn something new, and they don't realise actually what they're learning right now is the thing that they need to learn.
Absolutely, yeah. And
when you get them in that position, then they're the ones that you get to craft.
Well, what you often get is, I've done this for 3 months now, I know it.
so you got here, you've built this beautiful property up in 25 years, you've just gone through a massive, quite expensive refurbishment. What is it going to take to keep the Lanesborough as a top 6-star, 7-star hotel now?
Go again.
Scrub that bit maybe, but no. But what's it going to take to keep the Lanesborough at the top? We
have to keep reinventing ourselves, don't we? I mean, that is the other thing. And while I may be an old dog, I look for change all the time. I look for creativity. I look for forward thinking. I look for new ideas, and then I try and put them in. We were the first hotel in London to have butlers, for example. Butlers are now a dime a dozen. I mean, Lanesborough butlers are a little bit different from other butlers, but
I copied that. We had butlers at Whitley.
Yeah,
but they didn't.
So did the other half of the hotel industry. So And we have to continue being the first ones to do things. I mean, right now, for example, what are we? We're the first hotel, or the only hotel in London I know of, that we give free phone calls to anywhere in the United States or Europe.
Right.
I think that's going to happen throughout. I mean, we've been giving away Wi-Fi for 15 years. We've never charged. We charge a whack, don't get me wrong.
No, yeah.
And, we're not the most inexpensive hotel in London, but I believe these are the things that people look for in a hotel to give it value. Nobody minds to pay a rate, but what I think a lot of people don't like to do is every time they turn around,
it's another bit of money.
That's right. I mean, we're the first and I believe the only hotel in London. We also give all the entertainment for free.
Right.
If you want to watch a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it all the time. I said, I'd like to watch a movie, but I'm going to fall asleep in the middle.
Yeah.
And so, do I really want to pay whatever it is,
$16 or
whatever it is? And you end up, not doing it and going, I'll just go to sleep or something. But I think it's a nice facility to be able to turn on your TV and watch a movie, and whether you fall asleep or not doesn't matter, because you didn't have to pay for it anyway.
So, when we were at the Boutique Lifestyle Hotel exhibition this year, or the conference this year, this question came up about what is luxury? What is luxury today? Is it the bling? Is it the flash? Is it the stuff? Mm-hmm. And it was quite an interesting discussion. And I came up with an answer. I said, no, luxury is truly understanding what your guest wants, when they want it, and delivering it and exceeding their expectations. Just what are your thoughts? What is luxury to your guests? What does it mean?
What does it mean to my guests? It means different things to different people,
mm-hmm.
and that's the whole secret of it.
Yeah.
You have to be versatile in what you deliver,
mm-hmm.
and I think that's what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Reading people, because luxury to and it can be the same person, the mm-hmm. person that checks in one day, and he's got plenty of time, and he wants to know what's going on in London and all that. That's having the facility there to give him that information. And then you've got the next guy who's just off a plane. He has to go to a meeting. He's jet lagged and all the rest of it. And you have the facility of pressing his shirt within an hour.
Yeah.
You have the whatever he needs, mm-hmm. or if he needs something, he's forgotten something. You have the manpower to be able to send somebody out mm-hmm. To get it for him. So yeah. There's, I think, luxury means different things to different people, and at all times. But you need to be able to facilitate their needs and to be able to read them.
Yeah.
Go back to this being able to read guests' wants mm-hmm. and needs. And I think it's a lot of that is in the employees being able to read how they want to be treated and it is, and as you said, it's really a gift, mm-hmm. but you can make employees think about it every once in a while. You can train them to look into the eyes and look at the body language and make a decision.
Geoffrey, thank you so much for spending some time with me for the interview with the champions. The next interview that I'm actually going to be conducting tomorrow, I'm not going to tell you which day that is, but tomorrow, so I'm really excited. I'm going to tell you who it is. I'm actually going to be interviewing Diego Masciaga, who's the general manager, and like you, he's been there for some time. It's like 28 years or 30 years. At the Waterside Inn. And if you haven't read his book yet, go and get a copy of the Diego Masciaga Way.
I'm quoted in it.
And he is quoted in it. And there's a Mr. and Mrs. Brown quoted in it, but it's not me. I'm really looking forward to that interview, so please share this with your friends, tell them about it. You know where to get it. It's always in the Motivated and Inspired Facebook page, which is a private group, but anyone can join because it's free. And I really hope you've enjoyed your interview. Geoffrey, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.